parents eventually cut all their hair, and they looked dreamy and wonderful. And I thought, oh my gosh, my mom's getting so fashionable. It was great. So as she grew and got older, and as we got older, I would bring her jewelry because she didn't really wear much jewelry, and I wanted to up her fashion game. And I would bring her jewelry from different places I had traveled, and she'd go, oh, honey, these are lovely. They're just beautiful, and never wore them. Never wore them. And my mom died in 2018, and as I'm going through all of her things, I noticed all the things that I had bought her that she never wore, and all the wonderful fashion things, and the things she did wear a lot. But on her winter coat, she had one item that I had bought her, and I didn't realize she had it on there all the time, but it was my snowflake scent that I bought her. And that was the one item that I knew I bought her that she wore all winter long. So at Christmas this year, I started wearing it on my lapel when I go out to a Christmas party. And I always think of my mom and her fashion simple sense that she had. Thanks.
That was truly wonderful. Thank you so much for kicking it off. Listen, some of you have not signed up, and I want you to know what the papers are. There, take a couple of those and pass them back to the next table. Sign your name, your pertinent information. I have this nice, pretty lime green spring basket that I pulled the names from. I don't know why I left it over there. At any rate, you might want to know about upcoming events. A musical journey of Indiana Avenue is happening Saturday, April 29th. Tickets available, freetownvillage.org. And also on the same day, Mother Earth, featuring Heather Forrest and Beth Warner, is also Saturday, April 29th. Tickets are available at storytellingarts.org. I know you're thinking now about a fashion story, but let me befuddle you by telling you about next month, where our story slam will take place at Aristocrats on the corner of 52nd and College. And the theme will be teachers. I'll make sure I'm there. At any rate, we're here at Jamaica Breeze, and people have been ordering, and then they bring the food out, and then you have to figure out whose food it is. So don't worry about getting up and getting your goodies during the show, all right? So right now I'm going to get this green basket and pull out somebody's name. Don't put mine out. I'm going to mix up the basket. I'm going to do a blind draw. And the name I have pulled, kick off this section, is Tim Decker. Tim Decker, come on down.
Well, if I needed a title for tonight's story, it would be Ignore the Fashion Police at Your Own Peril. This takes place in 1971, at the end of 1971. I had just flown my 200th mission. I'd just flown my 200th mission in reconnaissance in Vietnam, and we decided to go downtown Saigon and celebrate and have a nice meal at a Vietnamese restaurant and to do a little bar hop. So as we're leaving the gate, we went out and I got to the MPs and they said, you are not going out the gate because your mustache is below the vermilion of your mouth, which are the two little corners of your mouth. So not to be deterred, because we had already made plans, we went around the corner and we went out the Vietnamese gate. So we went downtown, had a nice meal, went to the bars. Finally, we decided to have one for the road. And we were going in the bar, and a group of Vietnamese cowboys, which are basically hooligans, stopped us, started a little scuffle, said a few nasty things about Americans. Being a Vietnamese interpreter, I said a few choice words in Vietnamese about their mother and maybe what they could do to her. So we didn't think too much of it until we left. We got in a taxi, which in Vietnam are called cyclos, and it's a three-wheeled motorcycle. And on the front is a Ferris wheel seat with two passengers in there, so you're basically a human bumper. So we're heading back to base, and all of a sudden, bam, I go flying backwards. I came forward, and blood is now gushing out every part of my face. And I just screamed to my friend Bob. I said, Bob, I've been hit, thinking that I'd been shot right in the head. And he told the driver, he said, hurry up, get down to the Third Field Hospital. And he got down there. We got in, and nobody was around the emergency room. So finally, we spotted a guy taking a nap on a gurney. He got up. He said, well, the doctor's taking a nap too, and I don't want to wake him. So he said, we'll just give you this frozen glove, a latex glove filled with ice frozen. And he said, just put that over your face until the swelling goes down. Well, 5 days later, I go to back to the Third Field Hospital to have my nose repaired. And the doctor sits me down in what looked like a barber's chair. So I'm in there, and he's packing my mouth, my nose, every place he can with gauze. And all of a sudden, while he's doing this, he's asking me some innocuous questions about where I came from and what I do and all this kind of stuff. And the next thing I know, he grabs my head from both sides, my nose, he's pushing my nose one direction, the side of my head another direction. And I'm in the most horrendous pain you can think of. And I'm thinking, my God, the 2x4 that I was hit with didn't hurt me that bad. Which I forgot, the cowboys that we had, that had followed us on a moped, one of them on the back, I didn't know this till later, swung a 2x4 while we're going 40 miles an hour that way, they're coming 40 miles an hour this way. He swung a 2x4, smashed me in the face, and my nose was now sitting under my left eye. So anyway, the doctor, after he pushes on there, he gets my nose back, and he says, get up and see what that looks like, see if it's in the right place. I got up and immediately passed out and fell back into the chair. And so a little bit later, I finally came to, and I just told him, I said, this is good enough. I'll have it fixed when I get back to the world. So I guess the moral of the story is, even if the Fu Manchu fits, don't wear it.
Damn, that was real graphic, okay? Scared me to death. Whew. All right, I'm reaching into this magic basket. You know, fashion isn't for everybody. I sort of have this philosophy that whatever you look like when you get up in the morning, you ought to be able to go out like that. Okay? Yeah, some people don't agree, but you know, if you are confident in who you are, you can do that. Yeah, so let me reach into this magical lime green string basket and pull out a name. Oh, we got a good one. Maureen. Is it Bruston?
So I was in the Masai Mara Grain Animal Preserve in Kenya in 1981, a while ago. And we were camping, and we walked out of our tent one morning, And I was wearing my fantastic new sundress with a giraffe painted from my neck to the bottom of it. And I had my green safari hat, feeling pretty hot. And it was hot there. And we walked out, and there were Maasai women right outside of our tent. And they're sitting on the ground, and they were draped in beautifully colored kind of sarongs, just big pieces of cloth. And the ones who had babies on their backs they were tied on with other cloth, and otherwise they were topless. And they looked very young, but my friend and I went and sat with them. And we talked about, we were asking about the children that were running around and which ones are yours. And we used sign language to figure out how old they were. And these women were all in their teens. We were both 29, and they asked us about our children. We had none. So my friend ran back in the tent and got our birth control pills and showed them. They were looking, and we said, no children. And they just couldn't believe it, but they were pretty excited. So she also brought with her a bunch of coffee table kind of books that we had bought with pictures of all these different tribes. And these women were sitting and looking through the books, and some of them, they just laughed, and others, they got very serious, and pointing to different things and discussing the gorgeous, gorgeous jewelry that they wore. It was all hand beaded, and they would wear, some of them had jewelry from their chin all the way down their chest, and it was all beautiful colors of different beads. And they gave us both necklaces. We gave them books, they gave us necklaces. But the moral of this story is these young women in their early teens, mostly with 2 or 3 children, sat there and just looked to me exactly like myself in high school, looking at fashion magazines and gossiping. And it was so wonderful to have that experience with these young women. It was.
Well, that was wonderful. Thank you. There's a food court. Are you enjoying your food? Everybody? I see people standing in the back. There are a couple of chairs up front if you need to come and have a seat. There's 1, 2, 3 of these 4 empty chairs. So don't say we made you stand up. But although we could report that there was standing room only, that'd be okay. Right now, report to right next to us. We pass them out. Are there any more blank slips out there? I think we passed them out. I had a stack in the table. We passed them out.
Yeah.
We have a stack in the table. We passed them out. People brought it back. Any blank slips back there? Okay. We found them all. All right, mixing up the basket here. I pulled out our Greg's Maestro card. You already did this job. So right now, we'll be in for a treat. Our next teller is Noel Bewley.
When I was about 30 to 35, somewhere in there, I began dating this young woman, and it was in the summer. And so all of our dates involved racquetball, windsurfing, hiking, biking, and we just went out to eat after. So I was always dressed like that. Well, we continued dating to the fall, and then it got cold. And I thought, we got to do something else. So I offered, should we go to the IRT? There's a play that I think I'd like to see. And she said, yeah, she'd love to. And so we made arrangements to see a Sunday matinee. I lived about 2 miles east of the IRT. She lived way up in Zionsville, and I didn't want to drive up there. I mean, I would have, but I didn't. And we just met there. She was dressed beautifully. Just a long dress and just looked incredible. And I'm going to go backwards a little bit. My house was a small double. and I kept books and sports equipment and notebooks, and the floors were covered with it. And my father walked in once and called my sister immediately and said, "Your brother lives in another world." So that kind of leads up to where I'm going with this. When I decided it was time to go to meet her at the theater, I had on jeans, a pair of tennis shoes, a flannel shirt, and it was cold, so I quickly put on my hunting jacket, which had a tail that went about this far down and was probably dirty, and then I'm bald. So I took a stocking cap and pulled it down to my ears. And then we met at the theater. And she didn't say anything about it. And when the intermission came, she disappeared and went to the restroom for a long time. And I felt a little awkward standing there among the people wearing suits and sports jackets and ties. But okay, I had showed up. And we watched the rest of the the play, and then we left. And we walked out of the theater and started down the street, and she stopped and she said, "Wait a minute, have you looked at yourself? Do you know what you're wearing right now? Did you see anybody else dressed like this?" And I just went, "No," and we did not go out for drinks, and we did not meet for dinner. But we got married, and that's been 35 years ago, and we have 2 grown children and 2 grandsons. So things worked out, even though I must have tweaked my fashion statement later, but obviously I did, or I don't know that we would have those. Thank you very much.
No, let me tell you, you definitely would not have. I had a girlfriend and she had married a country bumpkin. And you know, what women do, we try to make you over. But she said she didn't tell him what to wear all the time. Because she didn't want to have to worry about it when he went out. Every once in a while, she had to let the lady see what he was really like. So I understand your wife's pain. And I am so proud that she stopped you when she did. All right now, that was wonderful. Let me remind you that if you ordered some food that came in on this cart, you might want to check over here and see if it's there. And there are a couple of empty chairs up front. Five empty chairs. So we got a full house. I love it. But let me reach into this magical lime green spring basket. Pull out somebody else's thing. Oh, Nathan knows. Come on.
Hi, everybody. How are we doing tonight? That's good. I want to tell you guys a little story about my personal fashion journey. It starts way back when I was in middle school. I grew up in Batavia, Illinois. It's a Chicago suburb, and a lot of my friends played traditional ball sports like basketball, football, whatever. And I always had aspirations of becoming a professional cyclist. And so I was always riding my bike, hanging out with kids who were at like the skate park, BMX park, doing whatever. Spent a lot of my extracurricular time at the skate park and riding BMX bikes. And so like, I don't know if you know what the apparel of a BMX rider or skateboarder is, but it's usually like skate shoes and skinny jeans and like a baggy t-shirt. And when that's what most of my wardrobe consisted of. And so when I went to school, walked through the halls, all my friends were in like Nike running shorts, Nike basketball shoes, whatever, just like athletic wear in general. And it made me kind of feel like out of place. Like I wasn't trying to fit in. I wasn't fitting in with the crowd. And so I asked my mom, I was like, can you buy me some, running shorts, blah, 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 athletic shorts. And then I went through, middle school. I joined the basketball team and played basketball and tried to fit in a little bit just with like my wardrobe and fashion style, whatever. And then that was like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And then freshman year, I quit basketball and I focused solely on cycling. Today, I am a professional cyclist, so my dream did come true. But through my freshman year, when I really started to like step away from traditional sports and kind of realized that cycling is what I wanted to do, I kind of just stopped caring what people thought. Because in Batavia, I was literally like, my school was like 3,000 kids, and I was the only kid in the school racing bikes. So I was definitely an oddball out. So I just kind of accepted that, and it kind of that sense also moved into my fashion sense, but it also helped create another driver of just kind of doing my own thing and not really caring what other people thought. And that's kind of progressed to today as well. Thanks for listening.
If there was one thing I could say to kids, especially when you're young, you're so subjected to peer pressure. And the sooner you realize that you have to be responsible to yourself, that's the best thing that could ever happen to you. Now I come up in an era where you couldn't wear pants to school. And you imagine? And you couldn't wear culottes. And I had some great culottes, okay? Color coordinated like orange bottoms with a purple and orange and white print top. And if you stood just right, you couldn't tell.
Look at them when I need it.
But then the geometry teacher figured it out and sent me to the office. I grew up in an era where, my mother said, fat girls have to dress. Okay? Now I've been a voluptuously gorgeous woman all my life. But in the days that would make you wear long line bras, girdles with a bone down the side, and you have to put them together, and then you have to put, this is way before Spanx, honey. Way before Lizzo. And before that, you have to get the stockings, and you have that little garter built into the garter. Ooh, then I went to college. I discovered blue jeans, big men's shirts that I could wear. And when I came home the first time for a break, and my brothers looked at me in disgust. They said, at least you can iron the jeans. They had jeans that they sent to the cleaners, and you had those nice pleats that went down. So I discovered life without a GIRDLE. I've been free ever since. That is a fashion statement. I didn't have to wait over this on, okay? And with that, the next story is by Jennifer Clee. Come on now.
So studies have shown that pregnancy alters a woman's brain, that the gray matter changes, in particular the part of the brain that affects a woman's self-perception and sense of identity. And it hasn't been proven, but I'm convinced that this alteration of gray matter also affects a woman's fashion sense. Pregnancy did that to me, at least. As soon as I became a mother, the first thing to go was clean, styled hair. Unless I'm going out, and sometimes even when I am, my hair is in a low, messy ponytail. Showers are a luxury, and so dry shampoo has become my best friend. The next thing to go was every pair of high-heeled shoes I've ever owned. I donated them to Goodwill, and I've never looked back. I did bypass the whole so-called mom jeans. Jeans are not comfortable enough for me. Jeans are for formal occasions. Unless elastic hugs the entire circumference of my waist, I am not interested. Or, as I like to tell my 4- and 6-year-old, no thank you, try that again. But I think the clearest, most obvious expression of my new mom style is my fanny pack. I have a very vivid memory of being maybe 10 years old at a summer camp and seeing this woman who had just dropped off her child at camp, a mom, walk across the parking lot, and she had a fanny pack on. And my heart was moved with pity for that woman. And I promised my 10-year-old self that no matter how desperate things got, I would never wear a fanny pack. Fast forward 3 decades, my back has been broken carrying around a ginormous diaper bag. My kids are finally out of diapers, but my shoulders still ache. Enter the fanny pack. My husband immediately rejected it, and my brother-in-law behind my back forbade his wife to everyone. I think they're afraid of my newfound power because I have never felt so free. I feel like I can do anything, be anything, because suddenly I have both hands and a convenient It is like being a marsupial. The fanny pack has become part of me, and I have become part of the fanny pack. So much so that I will wear it around my house because I feel a little naked without it. There's no more leaving my purse behind at restaurants. No more carrying around my husband's effects. Now when we go places and he wants me to carry his keys and sunglasses and wallet and umbrella and sweatshirt, sorry. I just have this one little pocket and it's already full of my stuff. I used to dress for others, but now I only dress for myself and sometimes not even for her. And so tonight I stand before you with pride, wearing my fanny pack. And tomorrow morning I will wake up and rock my fanny pack like a mother.
Respect. That's all I got. That's a wonderful thing. All right, we got a lot of names in this basket, so don't get shy. Once you hear somebody tell a story and it might jog your memory, we don't got nowhere to go. I mean, I had been here and the restaurant closed. Didn't realize the restaurant closed. We were out on the patio at the time. And all the workers were leaving. And we were still sitting out there with our plates and our to-go packages. And we dawned on us that the restaurant had closed. And we were still here. So I know there are good people here. Okay? Don't worry. Ooh, I got a name. No address, no zip code. But I know this is Amari Fields. Amari. Come on.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
There's my mom. Hi, Mom. Okay, this is kind of like my first story slam, so I apologize if this is kind of like word vomiting. So I grew up doing competitive all-star cheerleader. I don't think I'm gonna beat the story with the nose and the blood everywhere, but I kind of wanted to start off with like an embarrassing story for my fashion statement. I grew up doing competitive all-star cheerleading, and this was around like 2 years ago, so my freshman year in college, you know, the nervous jitters of college, and you don't know really what's going on, and you want to like create a story for yourself, but you don't know what that story is. I'm on stage competing. It's a 2-minute and 30-second routine, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, there's just pee going down my leg. My uniform was Navy at the time, so it really wasn't a big deal, but it was kind of like a big deal because cheerleaders, they jump, they flip, there's like videos, and there's the parents out in the front like, you got this, but you just know that if they zoom in even slightly, that they're gonna see at least something, or there's gonna be somebody wondering what's that spot on the floor. It was my spot in case no one really knew. So towards the end, it was like awards type of thing. My team ended up winning, and we were thinking maybe I should just pee every competition because we won. So maybe it was our good luck charm after all. So my fashion sense now, I kind of wear like dark clothing, as we see. I didn't know if I should get all dolled up for this event. I thought I was gonna come up here nervous. I was like, maybe I should dress to impress. But I just came in typically what I wore. I now wear dark clothing in fear that I'm going to pee myself out of nerves and excitement. I'm a very nervous, anxious person already, so I'm gonna wear dark clothing no matter what. I don't really wear dresses. If I am wearing a dress, I have to have Nike Pros underneath it. The Nike Pros have to match. I think it's still kind of like a cheer thing. I have that cheer fashion statement. We grew up wearing Nike Pros. It was Nike Pros or nothing. They're kind of like spandex, you know, kind of keep it compressed. We would flip in dresses, do all these crazy stunts and stuff in dresses. So I'm a spandex wearer for life. So in college, I would agree with Nate. All my friends kind of typically wore athletic clothing, and I'm like, okay, I found my people. I don't have to wear jeans all the time. I don't like jeans, I'm sorry. I will not wear jeans at a family function. I really won't wear a dress. I'm a sweatpants, leggings type of person. My mom might yell at me and be like, you need to wear something else. And I'm like, sorry, Mom, I can't do that. If I'm gonna eat a whole bunch, we all know we eat a lot. We're unbuttoning our pants and we're just chilling on the couch. I'd rather be cozy on someone's couch in sweatpants, knowing I'm about to eat a whole feast. So, more of the story. If you're an anxious person like me, I would advise dark clothing. It can go a very long way. I invested in diapers once upon a time, thinking that I needed to be in diapers earlier because I'm like, this is my life. I'm going to pee no matter what I'm wearing, no matter if I look good. You know, if I feel good, I look good. I look good right now. You know, I'm comfortable. I'm chilling. You all look good too. I love the fashion out here. Yeah, thank you guys. I really enjoyed this.
Girl, we could talk about the peeing. I got a totally different perspective on it right now. Okay? We got to start that to be a thing, okay? Ooh, thank you, that was hilarious. Okay, we get more, we get more, we get more. I'm telling you. Explanation, urination. No. All right, let me reach in this lovely spring green basket and pull out the name of Gloria Danielson. Gloria. Oh, what should have brought you tonight?
I know you said no props, but. Yeah. So I've been thinking about high school lately. And the reason I've been thinking about my high school years is because my 50th high school reunion is next Friday. That's the first one. Yeah, thank you. That's the first one. I have two. I have another reunion at the end of the summer. And the reason I have two high school reunions is because I went to two high schools. And the reason I went to two high schools is because my parents moved us when I was a junior, when I was just starting my junior year. and I am not happy. The school I'm moving from is a big school. It has 175 students in my class, which in 1972, 750 students. 750 students in my class, which in 1972 is a large class. And we're a powerhouse in academics and sports and music, and I'm part of that. I have been selected to or voted on or in the newspaper enough times that in my mind anyway, everyone knows my name. I'm a big fish in a big pond, and I like it that way. My new school is a little school in a little farming community, one stoplight. There are 130 students in my class, and they all grew up with each other. No one knows my name. They don't know who I am because I'm a nobody. I feel like I'm a fish out of water, and I'm pretty miserable about it. So during the first semester, I'm reviewing my very limited choices for second semester classes, and I come across a tailoring class. Hicksville actually has a tailoring class, and I have to be in it. And the only catch is, because there's always a catch, is it's only open to senior girls, and I'm a junior. So I go to the instructor and I say, I can sew better than anyone in this school, and you should make an exception and let me in this class. And I don't know if she got the desperation, but she did. She let me in. So second semester rolls around, and I am loving this class. It is the bright spot in my entire day. I'm learning construction techniques because it's a tailoring class, and I make a purple wool suit with a navy silk lining with medium wide lapels, bound buttonholes, fitted princess seam, tulip hem, and an A-line skirt, which is the fashion in 1972, and I know this because my instructor was a former editor of Women's Wear Daily. All right, Women's Wear Daily, the fashion authority. So every day at school, I am learning and practicing design. I am learning to draft my own patterns. I am learning to crumple and fold and drape fabric. I am devouring fashion magazines. We go to a fashion show in the city where the models walk the catwalk, and we spend hours at the sale department looking for stylish, well-constructed garments that are at bottom basement prices. I love this class. I love this class. And it's not because everyone knows my name, because they don't. But for some reason, it doesn't matter so much anymore. I have a new direction. I have a new purpose. And so it didn't matter that no one knew my name. And it doesn't end there. For the last 51 years, I have taken such great pleasure in unrolling the craft paper, sketching a design, drafting the pattern, cutting and stitching clothes for myself, for my family, home furnishings, and even shoes and purses. And the ironic thing is, if I hadn't been forced to move, I wouldn't even have these skills, because my old, big, beloved school didn't offer tailoring. I got some fabric at home. I think I'm gonna have to talk to you. Seriously. I got some fabric at home. We're gonna have to talk. All right. Listen, it's still time to tell a story, but I think I better go through this fast. I try to give the judges time to mark their scores, you know. I don't want to rush them. I can tell them horror stories about fashion, but you don't want to hear that. Let me instead listen to Alexandria Bunton or Burton. I can't take it.
Hey. everybody doing? So I did struggle a little bit with coming up with a story for the slam today. I like fashion, it's something I've always liked, but I wanted to do something different. So I sat and thought for a little while, and finally I realized fashion doesn't have to be a story about something that makes me look good, but one that makes me feel good. And so I landed on this story. When I was about 14 years old, my paternal grandpa died. Don't feel bad. He had COPD, and I think if he could use the hole in his lung to hold his cigarettes, he probably would have. So it was his choice. A week before the funeral, my mom, sitting back there, took my brother and I to JCPenney to look for funeral outfits, which arguably is the best part of somebody dying. Cha-ching. At the time, I was a 240-pound 14-year-old, and so my biggest concern was looking less like a 240-pound 14-year-old. And it's great because funeral dresses are black and they don't show anything, so I was in the clear. My mom and I finally settled on a long sleeve, below the knee black dress, and I was proud of it. My older sister, not so much. She told me, wow, I guess black doesn't make everyone look skinnier. Noted. And for my brother, my mom picked out a plain black button-up shirt. So about a week later, that's when the funeral was, I ride with my mom and my sister, and we meet up with my brother, my dad, and my grandma. Now, everyone's talking, giving their condolences, but I don't really hear anything that's going on. It sounds like, the Peanut movies when the adults talk. It sounded a lot like that. I was so distracted by my brother's shirt. I don't know if somebody had switched it in the night or bought something from the Baby Gap, but he looked like he was wearing buttoned up saran wrap. And about a half hour or so into the funeral, I lean over to my older brother and I ask, hey, are you doing okay? And he says, yeah, because like any good little sister, I want to know his mental health state before I ask my follow-up question. I lean over again and go, so when your button flies off your shirt and knocks the casket off the stand, do you chase the body or leave it? My brother and my grandfather never really got along with each other, but he wasn't sad, but he wasn't happy that day either. So hearing him laugh at a joke I made, it made me feel good. And that's what made me realize that it was poor fashion choices that cut through our strange grief like a hot knife through butter. And our fashion didn't have to be good. It had to make us feel good. And I felt good. Thank you.
That used to be a pastime of mine, cracking jokes at funerals. So it's sort of like a bonding experience, you understand? Okay. And it depends on whose funeral it is. You got to really know it well to make those cracks, okay? And the person you're talking to has to understand them. And then they have to try not to laugh so that the rest of the people in the funeral home or church won't, look at you. Real funny. All right. Well, let me reach into this basket again. Did a story about fashion. Okay, Avery Landman.
Hi everyone, I was not going to tell a story, but I'm going to now. So this story actually takes place on January 10th, 2020, so this would have been my senior year of high school. And this day I was wearing this pair of American Eagle jeans. They're my favorite jeans, they're so comfortable. And I was wearing this striped t-shirt type deal. And so I was at lunch with my friends, and they always sat at these high tables that were over by the trash cans. And so I would always sit at the further seat, towards the window. So I had my tray and my really far out, when you're just sitting there. So I was doing this like shimmy deal, like behind the thing, you know, and all of a sudden I hear, shh. My pants got stuck on the trash can like handle and ripped completely, like the whole butt. Like when I tell you, it's like this and then that. So I'm like in shock. And like, this is in the middle of the lunchroom at school. Like you don't want to rip your pants at school. That's like so embarrassing. So my friends are like, oh my gosh, like that did not just happen. So I'm like saying there, I don't know whether to laugh or cry because one of these are like my favorite jeans, but also like that was hilarious. So then I'm like, okay, what do I do? Like literally, like not to be like, you know, overstepping, but my butt was like out. Like okay, like it was happening. So you know, you do that like walk of shame kind of to the nurse's office where you have to go try on the clothes that they have. So I'm like walking down the hallway like this, like holding onto my pants, cause you know. And so I get to the nurse's office and I'm like, hey. I'm like, so I have an issue. Yeah, so basically I just ripped my pants in the lunchroom. And she's like, oh my gosh, no. So then I go in there, she's like, we'll see what we have. So, you know, there's gonna be like the like 4X pants or like the extra small like leggings that won't fit me. So I'm a 6-foot girl, so you know. So she pulls out these extra large biker shorts. And I said, okay. And it was either that or gym shorts that were like 3X. So I'm like, okay. So I usually wear about a medium or a large. So I decided to take the biker shorts, and at first I put them on and I'm like wearing like this cute top that I was so excited about, and then I have these biker shorts that go like that. And they don't fit me and they look super awkward. So then I decided, I was like, okay, you know what? I will just put them under my ripped pants. Because you know, like that'll look better. It didn't, but it's okay. So I put on these biker shorts and I put my jeans on. I was like, you know what? I only have like 3 periods left today. Like it'll be fine. So I'm going from class to class, and everyone's like, where are you? Like that is weird. So moral of the story is, do not rip your pants out of school because it's embarrassing and they don't have clothes that fit you and it's terrible. So in honor of January 10th, it's now RI Pants Day.
I'm trying to think of humiliating days at school, but nothing will top that one. But our next teller is Chat Flack. Come on down.
On the way down from Lafayette to get here, I had the opportunity to open up the bubble soap. And that prompted a whole last minute change up of my intended story. Because I'm guessing you don't know what I was talking about just then. And that probably gives me a chance to start a whole new fashion, to be a trend setter. You might be looking at me and harboring some doubts about that. Bear with me. I went to a college with a tradition of blowing bubbles down from the chapel balcony at certain events that were otherwise solemn. And so when I went back to a reunion 20 years ago, 20 and some change, taking my sweetie at the time, who was new to this tradition, we ended up with bubble soap in the car. And also, if you think about driving through Chicago to get anywhere, you think about long, interminable spells stuck in traffic. And we didn't just think about that on that occasion. We had the whole unabridged sensory immersion experience. And that was how we started our own tradition of having bubble soap in the car at all times, for use only in traffic jams when you can roll down the windows and blow some bubbles out of the car for the benefit of other drivers who, whether by sour disposition or improvidence or whatever, may not yet have their own bubble soap in their own car. And I think this may have gone as far as Pennsylvania now, because I was mentioning it at one time in an online forum, and there was somebody who heard about it there and said it sounded like a kind act of randomness. And so I'm just kind of putting it out here now as a possible new fashion. I've done my part, and now it's in your hands.
It took me a minute to figure out what bubble soap was. But I got it, I got it. And I'm gonna go invest in a bottle as soon as I can. Okay, I'm moving to the bottom of the fancy spring green basket. Because our next teller is Karen Lee.
I'm back there dying. So hey, so y'all probably heard that Mary Quant died, right? She died April 13th. I don't think any of you can know who Mary Quant was, do you? Mary Quant invented the miniskirt. Mary Quant actually was very oblivious about, I said the word, about inventing the miniskirt. She said it had been around forever. She just decided that the miniskirt was witty, opinionated, lively, and very positive, and that it needed to be a part of women's wardrobes so that they could walk, run to catch a bus, walk in a large crowd, and they could dance. Now, the reason why the miniskirt was really important to me, as you can tell, I am 5 foot 1 3/4 on a good day, and in high school I was 4 foot 11. I probably weighed 95 pounds soaking wet. The fashion at the time was a very gorgeous kilted skirt. These skirts, do any of you remember them? These skirts were sewn in tight seams all the way around, so they fitted your torso very, very well. Oh, so nice. And yet they were pleated all the way down. And on most girls, these skirts hit them just above the knee. And with them, they would wear the most gorgeous knee socks that matched the skirt, a white or powder blue or pink Oxford shirt, and a sweater vest. And this was the fashion of the time. The sweater vest was tucked in, and to top it off, they had the Agner shoes and the Agner belt with the big little A on it. And get over yourselves. We were from Indiana. We did not know how to say Etienne on it. It was spelled Agner. We called it Agner. My 2 older sisters were 5'5" and 5'7". And I got the hand-me-downs. So at school, walking those halls at Howe High School, drudging along that skirt that hit me mid-calf, not above the knee, with that sweater vest that looked like a dress, trying to tuck it into that skirt, that big safety pin on the side of the skirt. I felt like I weighed an extra 200 or 300 pounds. And then Mary Quant arrived. And it wasn't until 1972, even though that crazy skirt was invented in the 60s, that it showed up at L.S. Ayers and Watson's department store and Block's department stores. And the mini skirt was always a solid color. It was sometimes I had a little color blocking on it, but mostly it was a solid color. And the mini skirt was worn with a poor boy. Any of you guys remember the poor boy? The poor boy was a sweater that had little tiny vertical stripes knitted into it. The collar was unfinished, the sleeves were unfinished, and when I brought my first one home, my dad looked at me and said, "Why did you buy that sweater before it was finished being knitted?" And believe me, if you put it in the washing machine, it was only going to last for maybe 3 or 4 washes. But there I was, and the poor boy was considered this really tight sweater, but not on me. So there I was in my poor boy sweater, my simple colored mini skirts, and my leggings, or back then we called them tights, and my Anye shoes. Mary Quant said she didn't invent the miniskirt for the sexual revolution. She invented it for the liberation of women, so that we would have the freedom to be able to walk and move in our clothes, which we hadn't been up to that point. My 2 older sisters thought I was obscene. Now, how could you wear a miniskirt? The miniskirt hit me just above the knee. It was so freaking short. What's obscene about that? To be a miniskirt, it had to be 10 inches above the knee, no more than 8 inches above the knee. And to be a micro mini, it had to be 12. Have you seen them lately? I don't think I could be caught in a miniskirt today. I think that would be inappropriate. But I'm telling you guys, I'd give my right arm for a pair of Abners.
Thank you, Carrie. That's hilarious. I had a green skirt with a pin on the side, and our rule was to go home and change into your play clothes. But I had a new bicycle, so I was riding the bike, and I let my brother John ride my bike. And I'm trying to get him to give me my bike back, so I'm standing in front of him telling him to stop. Just knowing he would stop. But did he hit me and split my skirt in half? And my mother was so mad at me. Excuse me? Anyway, we brought back memories of that story. Hilarious. And like I said, Abner, I should know that. Okay, reaching into this magical green spring bucket. And Marianne, okay. Marianne in jail. Tell me what the name is. Mary Angel?
Don't worry. Surprisingly enough, that is not the worst my name has seen. But I have definitely seen fashion changing with time. For those who don't know me, I'm actually from Venezuela. I moved here to Indiana about 6 years ago. So back there, fashion is whatever you're seeing in TV, whatever you're seeing in magazines. So growing up, I saw these tall models with straight, silky hair and very tight dresses. So that is what it was considered fashionable back there. When I moved here, I was a very scared teenager. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand what was going on if I tried because I didn't speak English. Just to put that there. But when I got here, I also found that high schools, they can be very judgmental, very opinionated of what they should not be putting an opinion on. Because they also have like these fashion statements that like what you should be wearing. But mind you, I just got here to the country with whatever I was wearing. Didn't have much, so most of my clothes were for Goodwill and stuff like that. And even though I thought my sweater was really cute, nobody agreed on that. So when I moved to college, I was very insecure, like, are they also opinionated? So when I started dressing up, or at least I had to wear fancy stuff, in my head, it was like, oh, you have to wear like black and white, like in movies or whatever. But I joined it forensics. I joined it speech and debate. Shout out to my speech and debate coach over there. Because you guys are the ones that gave me my confidence back. My parents also thought, okay, we need to get you like a suit, like a penguin suit, like that. But my first suit was actually bright red. So like a year ago when we were preparing for state competitions, we were passing by like multiple like shops, like thrift stores, and I see this white yellowish suit. And I'm like, such like a bright color. I love that. But at like a very in like the very back of my head, I was still thinking about other people's opinions until one of my other coaches, I showed it to them, and he was like, "Oh, that's cute. What size are you?" Just as a quick summary, we end up getting the suit. I have been wearing it the past few times I have competed, and it's the suit that I actually got a national title on. So, hey, because that's the thing. The black and white suit, yes, I guess it's classy or whatever you want to call it. But yellow, bright colors, those colors that I feel more confident on, is what gave me that confidence to move on and be me. So, kind of like ending the story, don't pay attention to what people say because people are too opinionated about things they should not be opinionated in. Thanks.
Wonderful. You like that? You like it. Right. Go with what you like. You know, I was once on a picket line, teachers union. And we were told to wear orange. I think that was our color. Well, it wasn't yellow, it was orange. Honey, I went in my orange two-piece outfit. It was a top, it was actually a two-piece pantsuit. And it was bright. I could be seen from the moon. But I understood the assignment, carrying my picket sign with pride. They eventually settled our contract. I think they don't want to see me out there no more. I'll wear it for you one time. But our next talent is Debbie. Is this, I can't see what this last is, a G? Gullerg. Gullery. Come on, Deb.
Hi, everybody. So when I was younger, back in the 90s, I had the opportunity to work in a nonprofit international women's organization. It was just an awesome job. We did a lot of really cool projects, local projects and international projects. So we had chapters all over the world. And a lot of the theme was empowering women and helping women to find their way to be peacemakers. So I became New York State chairwoman. So in that capacity, I had a lot of things to learn. And one of the things I had to learn was to speak in public. Prior to that, I'd never spoken in public, really. And so as a chairwoman, I had to MC programs, introduce the event, and eventually I started giving little talks. And so I was kind of honing my public speaking skills, just learning. A couple of years later, the international organization decided to have a conference in Israel because it was the height of the challenges in Israel. There was a lot of difficult stuff going on, and we thought that would be a great place to have a conference. And part of the programming there was to bring Israeli and Palestinian women together to sort of create some opportunities for reconciliation. I got asked to go. I was thrilled as one of the representatives of America. And the first day, I've never been to Israel. If you've never been, it's an amazing country, lots of history. And so the first day we did sightseeing, it was incredible. Came back, the next day we were gonna have another day of sightseeing, and then in the evening was the program. As I was getting ready to leave, the American chairwoman approached me and asked me to stay behind to help. And I was, I don't really want to, but okay. And then she asked me if I could MC the program that evening.
Now, this was like a big step up for me. This was like, we had about 500 women there from all over the world. Plus, there were VIPs, you know, coming for the event and local women who were coming. So it was a big deal. So I recognized that she was trying to empower me, give me a chance to hone my skills. So of course I said yes. And I spent the rest of the day putting, if you've ever been an MC, especially for a complicated program, you have to actually make a whole script. You know, how to introduce each person and all the segues and everything. So I worked on it all day and I was kind of like preoccupied in a bubble. And then about an hour and a half before the program was to begin, it dawned on me that I had no clothes because I packed as a participant. So I had jeans and sneakers. And back in the day, in the 90s, for those of you who remember, what we had to wear to look good and look professional was a suit. Remember suits? Like a suit with a pencil skirt, stockings, and pumps. I had none of that. So I frantically ran to the woman in charge, my boss, and I said, oh, I don't know what to do. It's too late to go shopping. You better find somebody else to do this. And she's like, don't worry, we'll work it out. So I didn't know what she meant, but I went to my hotel room to panic. And then very quickly after that, this whole like entourage of women kept coming to my hotel room, knocking on the door. What do you need? What size do you wear? Try this on. And it turned into this wild scene of me stripping and trying on weird clothes. And it was kind of like if you've ever seen Miss Congeniality, you know, when, you know, and then all these people are putting her together, and at the end, Sandra Bullock transforms. I didn't look like Sandra Bullock by any stretch of the imagination. I was kind of like a real weird combination of clothes that didn't go together and all didn't really fit me very well either. So I remember, I remember I had a purple suit. Someone lent me a purple suit. And although I like purple in nature, I really hate purple on me. The whole suit was purple, you know, like bright purple. And I can't remember everything else, but none of it went together. None of it fit properly. You remember suits with shoulder pads? So like, if the jacket didn't fit you right, if it wasn't your size, if you weren't naturally endowed, so to speak, there would be these little boob pockets, you know, that should have been filled with your boobs, but it worked. So the shoulder pads were sticking out, the pockets were, and I had shoes that were too big. So I had Kleenex in the toes, which is what we did. And of course, I had to walk out on the stage. Remember that I couldn't just like stand there. I had to. So you remember? Have you ever done this? Where you have to like squeeze your toes together to hold the bottom of the sole? Like this, I didn't want my shoes. So anyway, all of a sudden there I was put together. I sort of was like simultaneously very discombobulated and also really felt loved. I really felt loved. And so the fashion statement was a statement of fashion of love and support. And when I went on that stage that evening as the MC for this humongous program, I felt confident. I even felt beautiful. And I felt like I represented all the women in the audience because I did. And even though I had the pursuit, I really felt like I rocked it.
I once wore a purple leather suit to sing at a wedding in the summer. And a friend of mine was doing something else in the program, and she had an orange suit on, I think. And they kept looking at us saying, you all really like bright colors. And she was another black woman. We just looked at each other a little like, okay. But I'll tell you that story later because I got to read it here and pull out another name, but I got some people in this basket. And the next teller is Stephanie Edwards. Come on in.
Is it on? Ta-da! Okay, listen, I walked around so I wouldn't unplug anything. That wasn't me, it was her. And I am also a Howell graduate. So, where's, is it Karen?
Karen, yeah.
And I'm also about 5 foot tall. Everything. I bought some pants not too long ago that were supposed to be capris and they came down to my ankles. I said, oh well, and I'm getting old, so you shrink as you get older. So I used to be 5 foot, so now I think I'm 4'11", you know, and my kids think it's wonderful because they're all taller than me. Okay, I need to tell you, I am from an era that when women wore red, the old ladies in the neighborhood would go, she's gone red. So I stayed away from red for many, many years, and when I had a baby, they had the cutest little red dresses, and I put a little red dress on my daughter, and these people in the neighborhood said, oh my God, you dressed that child in red, you know. I said, well, you know what's coming next. But I need to tell you a story about Aunt Alice. Aunt Alice was ahead of her time in everything she ever did. And she would make her own clothes, she'd make hats, she'd make anything and put it on. And I mean anything and put it on. She dressed me in a red dress for a dance at school, and I almost didn't go because I could hear the ladies in the neighborhood say, she's got a red dress. And one of my girlfriends said, girl, go on to that dance. Good grief, that dress is cute. That was cute now that I think about it. But Aunt Alice was so far ahead of her time. In the 50s, she made bubble dresses out of multicolors. She would dye her stockings the color of her dress. She got shoes the same color. Fingernail polish, she would dye it so it would match her clothes. And she made my sister this blue bubble dress, and she had a red one. And I thought they were so wonderful. But as I got older, I realized that Alice was kind of eccentric, you know. She one time she made a dress that it was green, just a straight shift, but she made a big round thing to put her head through. She looked like a black-eyed Susan because it was like it was wavy around it. You had this little brown face, and she had glasses on. And Alice was a hoot. And she'd go to church and wear these things. Everybody would say, what's Alice wearing this week? But the main thing that I remember about Aunt Alice, she made this dress, and it was it wasn't linen, but it was that linen-y type of material, beautiful flowers on it, little white dress with pretty blue flowers. She made a hat that looked like a basket upside down, and it came to her top lip. And she made eye holes in it. And so we tried not to really say, ooh, that's strange, but she was happy, so we figured, well, everybody be happy, and Alice made a hat. But then Alice decided to go to church in this hat, and you can't see anything except right. And the police stopped her. And the policeman said, ma'am, you can't see where you're going. And then she said, I can see perfectly well. I mean, she argued with the policeman. She said, I'm going to church, and I'm not going to take off my hat because it goes with my outfit. The policeman told her, yes, you are going to take off the hat, or we are going to take you to jail. And she said, I'm taking it off, but I'm praying for you when I get to church. And Alice is gone now, and I just have wonderful memories.
I love you so many hours. Lord, I mean, she was bad because you made your hat too. She was a seamstress and she did millinery work. Yeah, we would only see those things like in Vogue magazine. We weren't used to seeing it for real. All right, keep getting more and more names in this basket, but I'm mixing them up. And I'm pulling up from the bottom. They tried to fold this one twice, thinking I wouldn't get it. But my Hobbs, come on down.
Well, what's the easiest way of saying that I have no fashion sense? Let's see, the way I'm dressed. The fact that, what's the word for it? I'm a dork. I'll admit it. I'm a complete nerd. All right. I'm the one that in high school went to my high school prom in a white tuxedo with a tartan bow tie. Yeah, I'm that bad. But let me tell you. Oh, and I'm also partially colorblind. So I'm the one that wears red and green together. And trying to get them all to match is just hilarious for me. But being a dork does have a good point when it comes to fashion. Because a few of you know, I'm in a group called the Society for Creative Anachronism. You know what that is? We're the people that put on armor and sword fight on the weekends. We also dress up and you'll see us at Renaissance fairs a lot, but we have our own events too, that the public isn't allowed into. And those are fun, believe me, especially if you like to drink. Oh my God. But anyway, so imagine you are a complete and utter dork, which I am, I'll admit. No fashion sense at all. And you're going to these events, okay? And your friends are like, are you gonna dress like that? What do you mean? I'm dressed medieval. You look like a serf that just climbed out of a pig pen. But I made this. We can tell. Well, that's how it was. And that's how I dressed. I dressed like, you know, those Vikings you see that always look like they've been in a fight and have just gone through the mud and washed up on the beach? That would be me at every event. That's what I look like. Let's be honest. Well, it was time for me to get an award. And my friend Ann said, we're not going to let you dress like that. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I've got it. Have any of you ever seen the picture of Henry VIII from Holbein, where he's standing like this with the big yellow sleeves and the big cape and the big hat with the crown on the top? That's what she made me. She's like, you may be a dork, but at least at that point, you're a skinny dork. Not anymore. So she made that for me. And I'm like, what? And she put it on me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful. This is wonderful. Big wolf fur cape. The big golden brocaded sleeves. The shirt. The tights. And I went out into the hall and people looked at me and went, Your Majesty. And I looked over there and I went, Your Majesty. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm fashionable for once in my existence. I'm Henry. And then Anne looked at me and she said, oh, I forgot something. Turn around for a moment. I'm like, okay. She's like, we forgot the codpiece. No, I had on tights every day. This went over top of the codpiece. But you see, it turns out that Henry VIII was a braggart. And he overstated his, shall we say, popularity. And I'm like, I can't wear this out? I'm like, wrap myself in my wolf coat. I'm like, hi everybody, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine. They're like, we want to see your outfit. I'm like, oh no, no, no. And Ann said, you've got to do it. I'm like, okay. And everybody went, and then that song from David Bowie started going through my head. Fashion, turn to the left. Fashion, turn to the right. It's fashion. I've never worn that crotch piece again. And that's it.
I'm gonna say because you outgrew it.
I don't have to brag.
That's hilarious. Okay. I pulled the name of Lizzie. Lizzie, what's your last name? Schmidt. Okay. Oh, that's
Hi guys, how you doing? I've never spoken at a story slam before, so bear with me. But I want to tell you guys a story from when I was younger. So when you think of fashion, you probably think of a lot of other things than what I'm about to say right now, but this was like an iconic staple of my childhood, and that was my dad's military uniform. So it was something that I saw every day. He was in the military when I was a child, and he was deployed in 2007. So he used to come to my elementary school even wearing his military uniform, and all of my classmates would just be like, oh my gosh, he's the coolest guy ever. And I'm like, I know, that's my dad. So yeah, like I thought it was awesome. And whenever I saw him in his military uniform, I knew it meant that he was out saving people. So it kind of had a really good resemblance with me. So his uniform was something he wore every day, and I saw him every day until I didn't, when he ended up leaving for his deployment when I was in first grade. So the most I got for the longest time was pretty much just calls and FaceTime. So, you know, that's not exactly what you want when you're in first grade. You want to see your dad. And I remember one day we had gone as a family. It was my mom, my brother, and I. We went to the airport. And, you know, I kind of didn't know why we were there, but turns out there were like hundreds of military people, and they came home and they were celebrating, and there was like just a huge tunnel when the plane came in. And I remember walking around and seeing all of these like military men, and I was like, oh my gosh, these guys look just like my dad. And I was like, this is so cool. Until all of a sudden I saw him. And he was there, and that was probably one of my most significant memories from my childhood, just seeing him standing there in his military uniform. And I never had more respect for him. So since then, unfortunately, he has passed away, but the respect I had for him and that uniform really never did pass with him. Anytime I see someone wearing a military uniform, it reminds me of that respect that I had for him, and that I will always have for him for fighting and saving our country. And every time I will see a military man, I will always thank them for their service, because I know how much they've gone through and what they've done to earn that uniform. So that's all I got. Thanks.
we're also collecting those yellow survey forms. Hope you completed yours and filled them out. You might, are we having a drawing tonight? No. Yeah. So you might get free tickets to our next event. But I've reached into this yellow, stringy, lime green basket. Green. Okay. I was colorblind for a minute. Our next teller is Tracy Wynn. Come on down.
This makes our trip. And I want you to explain what kulaks are later.
Oh, wow.
We have
Okay.
vast difference of age groups in here. Okay, guys, calm down, because the story I have to tell you is very, very sad and traumatic. I usually tell happy stories, but this one is a traumatic story. It's very, very traumatizing. When I was in junior high school, the fashion that came out, and some of you may know, let me say this first, some of you may know that I work at the Indiana Historical Society, and we just opened a new exhibit called Chuck Taylor, the Man and the Shoe. Okay. This is when this trauma resurfaced for me again. When I was in middle school, the fashion was Converse All-Stars. And all the girls, all the cool girls had them, or at least I thought all the cool girls had them. And when they wore them with those thick socks pushed down, and it looked so cool. And I wanted those Converse, and I wanted those thick socks, and I wanted to be a cool girl. Well, I told my mother, I want Converse, I need Converse, I want Converse. And she said, no, no, no. I am not spending $25 on a pair of sneakers. I was devastated. I was traumatized. I didn't have Converse. I had to wear buddies and take my little thin socks and push them down and make them look cute like everybody else. Time went on. I never got the Converse. And recently, I also found out that at that time, the Converse did not cost $25. Because of this exhibit, I learned that these Converse were only $12.99. So that means that she wasn't going to get me Converse because she couldn't get my sister Converse too. That's where the $25 came from. I was devastated when I just learned this recently. This trauma goes on. So now when my adult children, who are all very successful and have great jobs, and they say, oh, you see my new Chucks? I got new Chucks. They're talking to each other. Oh, I got new Chucks. Oh, look at this color. And then they say, I'm gonna get the kids some Chucks. I tell the story. I tell the story of my trauma. And they say to me, Mom, do you want a pair of Converse? And I say, no, that's okay. That's all right. Now I'm going to tell you guys a secret. I haven't told anyone. I went into Kohl's and I went over to the shoe department and I went over to where they house the Converse and I tried on a pair and I walked in them and I said, oh, no, 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 no. These will never work on my feet at this age. Oh, no. And I left the shoe. I put the shoe there and I left it there. But again, because of this exhibit, someone came in and told me, you can go on Converse website, you can design your own pair of Converse. You can put whatever colors you want on your Converse, and you can put insoles into those Converse. So they will work in these feet. So I may just do that. Design my own pair of Converse and make my own fashion statement.
Okay, I'm giving them a chance to talk. It's like you stick your pants in the front. So it looked like it was a seam, like a pleat that went down the front, and it looked just like a skirt until you took a step and you could see that they were actually pants, but they looked good on. And if you kept your legs together, which you were supposed to do anyway, nobody could tell, especially your geometry too. You know what I'm saying? But that's what they were.
You guys probably know the term score.
Yes, sport.
The cool-offs were basically the same as sports. I was gonna say sport, but I didn't know they knew that too. I wouldn't know what cool-offs were.
All right, the next speakers, Donnie Jones, come on down.
Okey doke. Now, I too was in the military. I was a delayed enlistee. I enlisted in January of senior moment, never mind. So anyway, now I was in the Navy, and by the time I got in, they had closed down the facility in Newport, and all the women ended up in Orlando, in Winter Park. Now we had this really ugly, hideous, and atrocious uniform. It was a funky light blue shirt, these funky dark blue pants, these ugly black Oxfords called boondockers, and the shittiest socks you ever could imagine. By the time you got done marching around all day, your socks were bound around your toes. Unfortunately, you didn't get to go to the base exchange until after a week, because you had to have some money. So when you got there, they gave you, this is the stuff they gave. They had the audacity to put a dollar value on those crappy ass socks. Nobody liked us, and they were black. So when you put them on the first time, guess what happened to your feet? Anyway, it was always referred to as the uniform of the day. The uniform of the day will be whatever, depending on the season. I got out of basic training, got my regular work uniform. My summer uniform was like this light blue, very faint pinstripe, buttons, anchor, eagles. Eagles, up and flying. Couldn't be sideways, couldn't be pointed up. I got out of the Navy. I decided the uniform of the day was going to be comfortable. And that's what it is. I am right now the most comfortable I ever possibly imagined, unless I'm at home in my jammy jams. I got out of the Navy very long time ago, because I went in just before the Vietnam War ended. And so pretty much from the day I got out until this one, unless I'm at home in my jammy jams, this is what I wear. Because the uniform of the day is going to be comfortable. Thank you very much.
Well, now I've seen her Navy picture. She looks real cute in it.
That damn bucket hat.
Okay, anybody else want to tell a story? Because I don't have nothing else in this bucket. But I do have another temper. And I know it's going to be G-O-O-D. Because our next teller is Leandra Racker.
Hello, everyone. So my story tonight about fashion has to do with humiliation, not mine, but certainly some embarrassment on my part or someone else. But in order for me to get to the story, it's important to know, I grew up, and as I was growing up, church was a very integral part of my life. But going to church, having the mother and the grandmother that I had was almost like the mecca for fashion, because my mother and my grandmother, they were going to make sure that I was a proper young lady. I'm talking every Sunday, tights, black patent leather shoes or white, a slip, the dress, the gloves, the hat, the whole 9 yards. And I grew up that way, and so it was really normal for me. But when I got to college, I went to college in the South. I went to Greensboro, North Carolina, to a historically Black college or university called Bennett College for Women. So it was all women. So when you get there, there is a lot of decorum and tradition involved in this. And every Tuesday and Thursday, we had chapel. Now, going to chapel didn't necessarily mean you were going to church. It could mean that there was a prominent speaker coming or something. But whenever you went to chapel, you had to have either Black on or white. They had a uniform of the day. So they would put it out and we would know, okay, we're going to wear white or we're going to wear Black on certain days. And some days you could just dress up like it was church. Well, being in college and young, that also sometimes equates to being rebellious. And I was that. I felt like I had put in my years of tights, patent leather shoes, slips, gloves, the whole 9 yards, but it felt I was liberated by seeing some of my fellow classmates who lived in the South. It was nothing for them to go into chapel sleeveless. And for me, that was almost like, if I do that and my mother or my grandmother walks in this door, it is over. Like, that was just a no-no. Well, from freshman year to sophomore year or to senior year, I got a little bit more rebellious. We dropped the stockings, we dropped the slips, we dropped a lot of things. We dropped the sleeves going into church and the whole 9 yards. And so by the time my senior year came, right before graduation, we have something called baccalaureate ceremony. And that's where parents get to come and all the women or all the young ladies, they are presented before the college by the college president. And that was a huge deal because many college students had gone 4 years and they knew who our college president was. It was a fairly small institution, but to actually be on stage with her and be in the midst of her, that was a big deal. Well, I had a friend by the name of Alicia Hubbard, and that's important. My name is Leandra Radford, and that's only important because we were called up in alphabetical order. Hubbard goes before Radford. And they would call you up by name, and the ceremony was you come through the chapel door onto the stage, and the president is there, and she robes you, which is a huge deal. And then she puts the sash on you and your hat, and you're presented before the college as someone who's going to graduate the next day. And parents are there, and fathers are there, and aunts and uncles and cousins, and you name it. Well, Alicia's name, and well, let me just say this. The uniform of the day was white. Well, with graduation, everybody wants to put on their Sunday go to meeting best, right? So most of us had gone shopping. We, had on new clothes and the whole 9 yards. And I knew that, it's hot in the South, so it was hot. I can't remember the temperature, but it felt like 102 to me. And I was like, I don't care what they say. I am not putting on a slip. That was a no-no at Bennett College because when you wear white, you wear nude under, you have a slip, you do the whole 9 yards. And I was like, it's too hot. I'm not doing that. We're going to have on this white and they're going to put a robe on it. That's too much. So I'm going to forego the slip just so that I can be comfortable. Well, Alicia Hubbard's name is called first. I'm still sitting in the audience in my pew because H is way up there. I'm kind of towards the middle. She gets up, she comes through the door, and she's walking with such pride because her parents are in the audience, all of the classmates to cheer her on, and she walks right out of her skirt. Right out of her skirt. The president with all of her decorum, saves the day by unzipping her robe, stepping in front of Alicia, and just opening up her robe to give people time to come and help her back into her skirt. So it's not me, but I'm humiliated for Alicia. But then I start to think, you don't have a slip on. It's hot. What if you lost a pound or two? And I was petrified to go. And I was so excited. My parents had come, my grandfather, my grandparents. Like, I was so pumped and ready to go. And I was going to get an award, so I'm like super proud. But when it was time for me to be called, I was like a 5-year-old. I was so shy to go up on the stage. Now, I will tell you, my skirt didn't fall, thank goodness. But to this day, I could not tell you who the bachelorette speaker was. I could not tell you what the topic or the good advice that they gave was. I couldn't tell you the song that was sang, but I can tell you Alicia Hubbard's name. Follow fashion rules.
Reminds me of the time I ushered at the Walker Theater, that grand reopening. This is not the recent one, the one before that. Helen Whitelow was in charge. She was artistic director. And I was in my black suit with my gloves, handing out programs. And the slip I had on just fell down and puddled around my feet. I just bent over, picked it up, threw it in a trash can, and kept on ushering. Girls gotta do what girls gotta do. Okay, we have one final teller who's not going to be judged. Give out time to do your job. But if there's anybody else who has not told, too bad. Because right now, Ellen. Oh, come on.
I'm out of my comfort zone. But when I was in the 8th grade, I thought it was my job to make my mother cry. And on the school bus on the way home, I'd think about what I was going to say to her to make her cry. I have no idea why I thought that, but I did. And I'd walk into the house and I would say something, and she would send me to my bedroom and say, wait until your father gets home. Now, most of our fights were about clothes. I was a brat. She, starting at my very young age, my mom made a lot of my clothes. I can still remember them. Pink shorts with a top that had pink and orange and yellow balloons on it. She made me a spring coat. She made me my first bikini. She made my confirmation dress. But in the 8th grade, I was in a fashion show for the Colony Shop in Rockville, Maryland. And from then, I wanted all my clothes to be from the Colony Shop. And my parents couldn't afford clothes from the Colony Shop. So I took it out on my mom. And I mean, I would go in my closet and count how many days I could go without repeating the same thing. Now I wear whatever's the most comfortable 5 days in a row. But back then. So one day I came home and I started to say something to my mother. She walked into my bedroom and she removed every single thing in my closet but a pink A-line dress I'd made in home economics in the 7th grade, and an olive skirt that had a thin pinstripe navy blue stripe going through it. And I had to wear those 2 outfits every other day for weeks. Now, everybody in my school knew I had the meanest mom because I made sure that everyone knew. And what I didn't tell you is all I had to do was apologize to my mother, but I would not do that. So weeks went on, and I'm wearing that pink dress and that green olive skirt. And eventually, my family was going somewhere, I don't remember where, but neither the skirt nor the dress was fancy enough. And so my mom gave me something else to wear. And within that week, I'd gotten everything back without apologizing. And in the 8th grade, that's really important. But my parents were on top of it. They had sat down and decided that they would put me on a clothing allowance. And they would give me $15 a month because they figured out that's what they spent, on my clothes for a year. But they would buy me a new pair of school shoes and a new winter coat every year. And of course, I could ask for clothes for Christmas. And thankfully, my birthday was in May, so I had the seasons covered. And we never had another fight about clothes again. And it was years later that I realized it wasn't about clothes at all. It was about having some power and gaining some control. That's my story.
Last call. Okay, last call for yellow slips. You want to win some free tickets? We're collecting them. Last call for those from the slips. Now, who would ever think that Ella would do such a thing? I just can't believe it. I cannot believe it. All right.
I would.
You would?
I would. I would.
Next month, remember, we're going to be at Aristocrats at 52nd in College, and the theme will be teachers, okay? Don't forget that. I'll make sure I'm there, keep y'all honest. And I want to remind you on Saturday, April 29th, a musical journey of Indiana Avenue. Tickets available through freetownvillage.org. And also Mother Earth featuring Heather Forrest and Beth Horner will be available. The show is on the 29th, and tickets are available from storytellingarts.org. Our winners are all right, I'm so honored to make third place. Y'all know I didn't need this microphone, did you? Third place. I'd like to say congratulations to Tommy. And I got some good ones, boy. Noel Gidley and Tracy Wynn have tied for third place. Our second place winner is Mary Angel. And our first place winner is Jennifer Clee. Want to make sure we get your pictures taken before you leave. So if you come up, we'll take your pictures. But we also have pulled a name for free tickets. You can use these tickets for Beth Horner and Heather Forrest. And the name is Andy Myers.